Thank you to Erica for giving a lovely talk while I was in Bellingham for the session. Thank you to the Sangha. This Sunday is a half-day sitting and a Sangha meeting from 9 to 4 at my house. You're all welcome. We'll see what happens. Please wear masks. We're going to keep everybody safe. It's not supposed to rain, and it actually, I think, it's supposed to be fairly warm, which means that we can actually spend some time if you want outside too. But let's take good care of each other, so I can stop wearing a mask. Oh dear. Okay. So, we have been studying the Buddha's teaching on social and communal harmony, an anthology of discourses from the Pali Canon. I really like this book. This is amazing what Bhikkhu Bodhi put together. I mean, he's a scholar. He's translated so many things, but he compiled this and put them together for us by categories, which is rather remarkably kind of him. Because I know Jared through the Racial and Social Justice's Dharma Practice group, and we're beginning we've been doing it for, you've been doing it for a few years, I've been doing it for a lot of years. We're going to try something new this time, which I'm really excited about. We are in such divisive times, in case you hadn't noticed. And I figure we're headed into the election cycle, and if you're anything like me, it's really easy to get riled up. Not that we shouldn't get riled up, but let's take some breaths and then figure out what's skillful and appropriate. So practice. We're going to, in the Racial and Social Justice group, as Dharma practice, we're going to ground it in the precepts. Not as right or wrong or shoulds, but just as good guides. Because it's so easy. I can be such a good person till I'm not. Maybe I shouldn't say this. My mother used to say to me, I still can't figure out why she said it to me. You know, the thing about when she was good, she was very, very good, and when she was bad, she was horrid. I don't think I was ever horrid, but my mother's. But we all kind of are like that, you know? It's like we're really good bodhisattvas until something comes along and pushes us. And for me, I get pushed when something looks unjust and unfair. That's part of my karmic trigger, which really works for me because I have a great sense of social justice, but it also really doesn't work for me because it doesn't bring out the best me and not necessarily what would most help the situation. So that's why I'm so appreciating Bhikkhu Bodhi's teachings. And I will say, because we're on right speech or proper speech, which Erica began, and I'm going to do a little bit more, and I apologize if I repeat or we repeat, but we could say the same thing over and over forever. It's just remind ourselves. Bhikkhu Bodhi is one of the few teachers Buddhist teachers who's actually spoken out about what's happening in Palestine and Israel. Everybody else, I don't know, but my sense is people are afraid that they're going to go one way or the other and alienate. Who knows? But Bhikkhu Bodhi is just, it feels like he feels so clear in his practice that he's not afraid to say, there's so much suffering. And how can we find peace? And I really admire him a lot. The other person who, I didn't know I was going to go on this tangent, but the other person and the person who has an introduction in here is Hozan Alan Senaki, who is one of the other deeply engaged, socially engaged Buddhist teachers, and he's the abbot of Berkeley Zen Center, became the abbot when Mel Weissman died, and he went in for a routine procedure a few weeks ago. I don't know how long it's been now, and had some kind of a heart. I don't quite understand it, a heart attack, but he was without oxygen for, I heard yesterday, I think for 12 minutes in the hospital. So he's been in a kind of what looks like a coma, with people just sitting, holding the space, hoping he comes back. And his family sent out a picture yesterday of him high-fiving. You know, this isn't a done deal, obviously, but he's responsive. So when we practice this, we practice it with and for all beings, and we got two really good guides here. Alan's been an amazing, and is an amazingly dedicated practitioner, care about the world. So I thought, today is also, some people said it was yesterday, some people are saying it's today, is I believe the 2-year anniversary of the death of Thich Nhat Hanh. So we can dedicate what we're doing today to him and out of gratitude. And I thought, before I read you, one of the things, if you've been following along, is what I've really been enjoying is the root teachings of the Buddha, and then seeing how it's manifesting in this present time through present day teachers. And Thich Nhat Hanh was and is certainly one of them. So let me, because this is about proper speech, the Buddhist teachings on proper speech. This is Thich Nhat Hanh's 9th mindfulness training, which are also kind of parallel precepts. And he says, truthful and loving speech. Aware that words can create happiness or suffering, we are committed to learning to speak truthfully, lovingly, and constructively. We will only use words that inspire joy, confidence, and hope, as well as promote reconciliation and peace in ourselves and among other people. We will speak and listen in a way that can help ourselves and others to transform suffering and see the way out of difficult situations. We are determined not to say untruthful things for the sake of personal interest or to impress people, nor to utter words that might cause division or hatred. We will protect the happiness and harmony of the Sangha by refraining from speaking about the faults of other persons in their absence, and always ask ourselves whether our perceptions are correct. We could say that in the Sangha, we could say that in our families, we could say that in the world over and over. Is this perception accurate? We will speak only with the intention to understand and help transform the situation. We will not spread rumors, nor criticize, nor condemn things of which we are not sure. We will do our best to speak out of situations of injustice. We will speak out about situations of injustice, even when doing so may make difficulties for us or threaten our safety. Could just put this on our refrigerators, right? On our bathroom mirrors, on the dashboard of our car. It's like, what else do you, the 16 Bodhisattva precepts, I didn't look the ones in more formally in this lineage. At least out of the 10 pure mind precepts, at least 4 are about speech. And I will remind us it's about inner speech as well as outer speech, because whatever you're saying inside, it's going to leak. What you're saying about yourself, or those little things that the person next to you, you know, it's like these things arise. It's like but what do we do with them? That's our practice, ongoing forever. So, Thich Nhat Hanh, and I'll in a minute, I'll also bring forward Dogen, was clearly following in the footsteps of the Buddha. This is from Bhikkhu Bodhi. One of the distinctive traits of human beings which differentiates them from animals is our capacity for speech. Words can create enmity or friendship, can win or harden hearts, can deceive others, or open them to new pathways of understanding. Social transformation in the course of history have been facilitated by speech, whether spoken or written. Just think of the impact of the Declaration of Independence, the Communist Manifesto, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, and Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. By means of speech, new ideas are disseminated, new insights shared, and new horizons open to human investigation. Speech has ignited wars and fostered peace. All the hopes and yearnings of the human heart in every sphere of our collective existence have found expression through the medium of speech. In regard to the Dharma, the role of speech is so important that the Buddha says one of the two conditions for the arising of right view, which is deep understanding, which is awakening with and for all beings, is the utterance of another. It's very important to recognize the pivotal role of speech, and it's all throughout the Buddhist teachings. And then he goes on to say, and I'm going to read little bits of this, is that some of the texts included in this chapter may bring surprises. While the Buddha highlights the danger of creating unnecessary arguments and in assigning praise and blame arbitrarily without investigation, he does not insist that speech must always be sweet and agreeable to the hearers. Now, isn't that interesting? To the contrary, he holds one should have no qualms about criticizing those who deserve criticism. He says you should speak with praise and blame when they fit the situation. And when one knows overt, sharp speech to be true, correct, and beneficial, one may utter it, knowing the time to do so. That takes us into some interesting territory, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So let's investigate that a little bit. Okay, possessing the 4 factors. Possessing the 5 factors. I like to read you the Buddha just because it feels like it's important to have him in the room. The Blessed One said this, monks, when speech possesses 4 factors, it is well spoken, not badly spoken. It is blameless and irreproachable among the wise. So you speak well spoken, not what is badly spoken. You speak the Dharma, not non-Dharma. You speak what is pleasant, not what is unpleasant. And you speak only what is true and not lies. This is right speech. Okay, 5 factors to help us more, to help clarify. It's spoken at the proper time. It's like, I don't know about you, but often I want to say something just because I want to say it and it'll make me feel better to say it. Get it off my chest. Is this the most helpful time to say it? It's a really important question. Is what is said is true? Have you really investigated your perceptions? Is what is spoken, is it spoken gently? Is it beneficial? And is it spoken with a mind of loving kindness? So, do I speak at the right time or not? Is this the right time? Am I really stepping back to see if this is the right moment? Do I speak the facts or not? Am I saying what's really true? How much am I wedded to my own opinions and views? Oh, a lot. Am I speaking harsh? Just know it. I mean, you start with kind of the pure practice of confession as you're a human being. And we have very conditioned views. And most of us, especially if they're ones we want to blurt out, we're pretty, excuse me, we're pretty attached to. So, am I speaking harshly or gently? If I'm speaking harshly, I'm probably speaking to someone or situation out there that I've turned into a thing, because there's no contact. Take a breath. It's speaking to another human being. Do my words benefit beings or not? And what is my motivation? Do I speak with a good heart, or is my heart malicious or just trying to unload? Shorthand, is it true? Is it kind? Is it beneficial? Is it necessary? And is it the right time? It's so humbling. It's so wise. Just kindly track this week your speech. Oh dear. Okay. So with always with a huge amount of compassion, because if you can do it and you know it in yourself, it helps you forgive other people or stumbling into their own opinions and mud. I'm going to skip a couple things here. Dogen was, of course, grounded in the teachings and words of the Buddha. And we have studied and will again. He has a wonderful fascicle called The Four Beneficial Actions, or the Bodhisattva's Four Methods of Guidance. It's one of the more understandable fascicles by Dogen. It's fun to keep going back to. It's like, oh, I get this. He's very clear. He starts with the four beneficial actions. First one is giving. The second is kind speech, which I want to bring forward because of what we're doing today. The third is identity action, which is once you know we're all in the same boat and that we are all mirrors of each other, how can I treat you the way I would treat myself or would want to be treated? And beneficial action, how do we embody basic goodness? But let me tell you what he said about kind speech, which is interesting that the Buddha said something about you can't speak harshly. So maybe this is, I was thinking maybe this is the question I'll send you off with at the end, but we'll see what happens, is how can you say something that after you've investigated all of those factors and you've arrived that it's a good time, it's the right time, it would be beneficial, but it's something that, excuse me, not harsh, but it's not, but it's a little critical. Here's what Katagiri Roshi says. Kind speech is not merely speaking in an ingratiating voice like a cat that's purring. This very naturally, consciously or unconsciously, is trying to get a favor by fawning or flattering. This is not kind speech. Kind speech is not the usual sense of kindness. It can appear in various ways, but we should remember that it must constantly be based on compassion. Under all circumstances, that compassion is always giving somebody support or help or a chance to grow. Here's how Dogen says it. Kind speech means that when you see sentient beings, you arouse the mind of compassion and offer words of love and care. So even if you, quote, have something critical to say, how do you do that with love and care? What's the difference? How does that turn? It is contrary to cruel and violent speech. You should be willing to practice it for the entire present life. This is continuous practice. Do not give up. Which says to me, he must know this isn't so easy. Do not give up. World after world, life after life, kind speech is the basis for reconciling rulers and subduing enemies. Boy, we sure forgotten that in this time, haven't we? You should know that kind speech arises from kind mind, and kind mind from the seat of compassionate mind. And then he says, kind speech is not just praising the merit of others, it has the power to turn the destiny of the nation. Martin Luther King says, our lives begin to end the day we remain silent about something we care about. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So what is this place of proper speech, right speech, that can turn the destiny of a nation, and that's completely based in kindness and compassion? I mean, I think for me, if I was to honestly kind of confess, these are all reasons I practice. Because I care so deeply, just like all of you do. And I also know, because I've mucked around enough, and so have you, how much, even if we think our intentions are good, we can hurt people and we can cause more harm. And we definitely are not, in situations cannot be helping the situation, even though I want to. And because I want to, and because that's my vow, that's why I practice with all of this and never give up. Because I'll get it a little bit, and then I'll muck into the mud, and then I'll take a breath, and then I get a little softer, and then I get a little bit more conscious, and then I get a little more humble because I get triggered by the same kind of stuff, and there I am off and running, and then, am I the only one here? That's what's so wonderful about this, is we at least can sort of say it and laugh and feel a little sad and just keep working on it forever. And identify our triggers. Just be honest and compassionate. Okay, so Dogen has a whole fascicle, which I thought would be fun to study sometime. I was thinking maybe even at the Aravaipa Sesshin, we'll see. He has a whole fascicle called Intimate Language. What's that? Doesn't that make you curious? What is language where there's no separation from the situation? It just completely arises out of silence and out of deep presence, so it becomes appropriate response. Then it's intimate because it meets the moment. And then something else happens, and something else happens. Dogen says, it is said that the world-honored one, the Buddha, had intimate speech. Speech not conditioned by thought patterns, habit patterns. a zazen, deep zazen body, deep zazen listening. Just the capacity to be here and to listen and to respond. So then I'll just take a little dip into, because we'll go into this I think more on Thursday, and maybe come back around, is we began here, Bhikkhu Bodhi and the Buddha have been helping us, is we began with the personal training. Thich Nhat Hanh's 14 mindfulness trainings, precept training, is study your mind, study your heart, keep coming back, study the self forever. And interestingly, that the first thing then that in studying and in wanting to bring communal order, communal harmony, he addresses anger. Pay attention to anger. Then pay attention to right speech. And the thing that comes after that is friendship. Because once we move from the personal, because we're not just isolated human beings, we move into relationship, which is what we're in all the time. So how do we be in relationship? Not only with ourselves, but with each other. So let me just read you just the introduction to this. Strong communities depend on the personal relationships between their members, and the most basic relation between people outside family connections is that of friendship. So we begin to move from personal cultivation to the establishment of interpersonal relations, and so we naturally begin with friendship. The Buddha placed special emphasis on one's choice of friends, which he saw as having a profound influence on one's individual development, as well as on the creation of a harmonious and ethically upright community. Good friendship is essential not only because it benefits us in times of trouble, satisfies our social instincts, and enlarges our sphere of concern from the self to others. It is critical because good friendship plants in us the sense of discretion, the ability to distinguish between good and bad, right and wrong, and to choose the honorable over the expedient. There's just endless opportunities. Forever. So, we've got a little bit of time. Maybe, well, if we put you in groups of three, yeah, it looks like that would work here, and I can put you, let's just write speeches, everything about relationships, so it's a wonderful ground. You can talk about anything that arises in this. I'm kind of curious. Do you have stories or a story that arises for you about right speech or maybe wrong speech? Something that you learned from what came out of your mouth that stopped you and taught you something? Or maybe a moment where you stopped yourself before speech came out of you, and then in stopping and coming back, a different kind of speech arose, maybe with your kid. Kids are wonderful teachers. So let's have just a personal investigation of whatever arises for you about speech and what you maybe our present moment learning about it, or some instance where the world gave you a really good opportunity to investigate this. Okay? So looks like about